Hi everyone, I hope you all are great. Today we'll have simple compound complex and compound complex sentences. First, you have to log in using the aplusn.com. Click when you move on to language arts. This class is for the high school advanced writing. We'll get a lesson on that, the grade 9. Our lesson will be identify dependent and independent clauses. Is the sentence simple, compound complex, or compound complex? Alright, so a clause is a group of words that contains both a subject and a predicate. So a clause has a subject and it has also a predicate. Now, under the clause, we have independent and dependent clause. An independent clause is a complete thought, it can stand alone as a sentence, so a complete thought. A dependent clause is not a complete thought, it cannot stand alone as a sentence. Let's pick up some sandwiches from Pete's Cafe. Now, the clause can stand alone, it is independent. After Kevin gets off work, the clause cannot stand alone, it is what? Dependent. Okay? So a complex sentence is made up of an independent clause and a dependent clause. Now the dependent clause is a complex in a complex sentence usually begins with a subordinating conjunction or relative pronoun. So we have subordinating conjunctions include after, although, as, because, before, if, since, unless, until, when, and while. Now relative pronouns include that, which, who, whom, and whose. Okay, so the dependent clause begin with the subordinating conjunction or relative clause. Now let's pick up some sandwiches from Pete's Cafe after Kelvin gets off work. So after here is the subordinating conjunction. It shows that this part is the beginning of the dependent clause. Okay, so during his trip to Italy, Tony visited the Trevi Fountain, which is in Rome. So, which is in Rome, the dependent clause begin with a relative pronoun, which. Okay. Alright, so we have since Japan has little arable land is the dependent. Okay, this is the question here. So select the dependent clause. Since Japan has little arable land, it cannot grow enough crops for its population and must import much of its food. So since is what is subordinating conjunction. So it's the starting of the dependent clause. Okay, so we have here while the telephone connected 50 million people within 75 years of inception, the internet accomplished the same feat in only 4 years. So, since it's going to be from dependent clause will be what? Wow, okay, relative pronoun. Alright, let's go to the test. You can share your answers if you know them. Alright, so select the dependent clause. The uniquely colorful many domed St. Basil Cathedral in Moscow might have been destroyed if architect and preservationist Parandowski had not fought Stein's plan for its demolition, first or second. So we have the second one. Okay. So, while the telephone connected 50 million people within 75 years of its inception, the internet accomplished the same feats in only 4 years. So, dependent clause, first to second. So, we have the first one. Then, if the amount is disturbed, fire ants will attack their victim aggressively with incredibly painful stings. Independent clauses, first to second. Alright, so we have the second. Then, if a king cobra is provoked, it will produce an intimidating hiss and lift one third of its body upward in a confrontational manner. Dependent clause, first or second. Okay, so dependent we have if. Okay, so just freeing Cochrane, a wealthy socialite and inventor, designed the first dishwasher because her servants were demanding, damaging her good china. Independent clause, first to second. Okay, so we have the second. So dependent clause, is it the first or second? So dependent, we have the second one. So independent, well, a stray cat is usually defined as a lost or abandoned pet. A feral cat lives in the wild and avoid human contact. Independent, first to second. So we have the second. Okay, Vicky sat restlessly in the car while she waited for the heater to defrost the windshield first or second for dependent clause. Dependent is the first one. So we have well. Then dependent here. First or second. Okay, so we have what? Whose. Okay. Alright, that's it for this lesson. We'll move on to the next lesson. Okay. But tell me if you have any questions first. I have no questions. We'll continue. So, We know what a clause is and we know the dependent clause. Now we will move on to the simple sentence. Okay. So simple sentence is made up of a single independent clause. Remember that independent clause can stand alone. Ben and I spent all day relaxing by the pool. Some simple sentences have introductory phrase, but the introductory phrase is part of the predicate. So we have in the winter, Ben usually wears his heavy coat. Ben usually wears his heavy coat in the winter. Now we have compound sentence made up of two independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction such as and, but, or, and so. So that's the compound sentence. It is made up of two independent clauses. We saw the flash of lightning, and seconds later we heard a rumble of thunder. Okay. So complex sentence made up of independent clause and independent clause. Now the dependent clause is a complex sentence. In a complex sentence usually begin with like a subordinating conjunction or relative pronoun. So these are subordinating conjunction and relative pronoun. So just like we have, if she ever gets a chance, Tara would love to visit the Egyptian pyramid. So if subordinating conjunction. And then during his trip to Italy, Tony visited the Trevi Fountain, which is in Rome. So which relative pronoun. Okay. So a compound complex sentence made up of two or more independent clauses and one or more dependent clause. Okay. So after Samantha left work, she stopped at the bank and then she went to the gym. So sometimes a dependent clause in a complex or compound complex sentence can interrupt an independent clause. So like Oscar that are kept in captivity often have bent dorsal fins. Okay. Okay, so let's look at the example. So which type of sentence is this? Since it takes approximately 1,000 years for a used printer cartridge to decompose, recycling this plastic ink dispenser helps the environment. So since this is what complex sentence. Then as Pat sat down on the rickety old chair, it abruptly collapsed beneath him. We have what here? Simple sentence. Alright, let's go to the test and you can share your answers with me, okay? Okay, so which type of sentence is this? An avid reader, Robert attends weekly book club meetings and he finishes several novels every month, first to second. Okay, we have simple. Okay, so compound, okay? So Billy took several incredible panoramic photographs of the sweeping view from the top of Table Mountain, first to second. So we have simple. So the weather forecast had predicted several severe thunderstorms, but the dark, heavy thunderstorm never materialized. So first to second. Alright, so we have compounds. So is it complex or simple here? So we have what here? Complex. So after a parrotfish eats algae covered coral, the corals travel through the fish digestive system and then it is deposited in the reef as white coral sand, first to second. Okay, so compound complex. Then is this simple compound here? Okay, so we have compound here. So is it complex or compound complex? All right, so we have compound complex. So that's it for our lesson today under the simple compound, compound, and compound complex. Can you tell me if you have any questions? Alright, since we have no questions, we'll end here. Complete this lesson if you haven't. See you next time. Bye.